Welcome, everyone. Like I said, thank you so much for being here. It really touches my heart to see everyone. And those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Tomoko, and I'm the eldest daughter of Kimi and Ryochi. And on behalf of the Hanamure family, I would like to welcome you and express our sincere gratitude for your presence here today. Your love and support means so much to us. Thank you. So in Japanese, my Japanese is very rusty, so please forgive me. So 今日は私たちのお母さんのために集まってくださってどうもありがとうございます。心からありがとうございます。All right. Okay, so we're going to do an opening prayer. So just take a deep breath and follow your breath within. So now that we've come together today to honor and celebrate the life of our beloved mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, friend, Kimi Hanamure, we are here to acknowledge her contribution to each one of our lives and to find our hearts at peace with her passing into her next expression of life. So take another deep breath and connect with the God of your own understanding. And knowing and sensing that God is all there is, whatever name we choose to call God. We know that that one power, one presence, one life expressing in so many beautiful ways is God. God is divine love, infinite intelligence, joy, harmony, the life force that animates all and unites us all in oneness. We are each unique and beautiful expressions of God, radiating this truth as who we are right here and right now. So from this place of oneness in God, I bless this service, knowing that it is already perfect, healing, and complete. I bless this time together. I bless everyone who helped to make this celebration possible. I bless everyone here and all those that are holding Kimi and the family in their prayers. And our beloved Kimi's soul, knowing that life is eternal and she lives on in our hearts and minds. As we remember her in our joyous memories, she can be with us right where we are. I know she is looking over us right now, and with a gentle smile, as we know Kimi, right on her face. In high gratitude, I simply say thank you, God, and let it be, and so it is. All right. So Kimi Hanamure, I have my glasses and I don't have that on. Kimi Hanamure has joined her beloved husband in heaven, Ryochi, who made his transition into 2017. Survived by her 5 children, Katsuhiko, Tomoko, Ryoko, Yoshihiko, and Haruka. And you know, they went on to have 10 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren now, and soon to be 3 great-grandchildren. So I will introduce them later. But let me tell you a little bit about my mom. Kimi was born on October 13, 1941, in Kyushu, the southern island, in a rural farm town in Kagoshima, Japan. to our grandmother, Sue, who was only 15 years old. And I found out that later. So much mystery surrounded her birth, and my mom didn't know who her biological father was until much, much later. The year 1941 was a tumultuous time in Japan and the world, as we all know. They were right in the middle of World War II. Bombing of Pearl Harbor just happened a month prior to my mother's birth. All the eligible young men were forced to join the military, leaving behind only the old men and little boys. And you know, my grandpa fell in that category, and so did my father. He was only, I think he was only 6 years old. So women and girls were left behind to care for the household and to carry on life. Sue's two brothers left to fight and never returned home. To protect Sue's modesty, the family had hidden her pregnancy. And after Kimi was born, a story was concocted that she was born to an elder cousin that couldn't take care of the child. So she came to live with Sue and her parents. On the other side of the village, a young man named Norville returned home from the war to find his parents had passed away and his only sister, who was a war widow herself, dying of cancer, leaving a baby behind. So here's a young man with a 3-year-old trying to rebuild his life after the war and all alone in the world to raise this little baby. The people in the village try to help him by matching him up with Sue's older sister, Taki. But she was not interested at all. It was a fortuitous thing, though, since he fell in love with Sue. They were a perfect match, an instant family. My mother was about 5 years old when Nobuo came into her life to be her father and gave her a little brother as well, for a very short time. My mom absolutely adored Grandpa Nobuo, and so did I. He was so awesome. I was his little buddy. The baby brother was soon adopted by a wealthy, childless family who promised to give him a proper education and a good life. And this was a commonplace in Japan at that time. An offer they could not refuse, of course. My mother soon had 2 siblings, my Aunt Izumi and Uncle Masami. They were family, and they carried on my grandmother's family farm. During the rebuilding phase after the war, it was a hard time for many, many people in Japan. Food was scarce even in the farming communities. Most of the food they grew had to be sold to make ends meet. Kimi grew up helping out around the farm, learned everything she can, especially how to make whatever food they had stretch and, of course, tasty. I think she discovered her love for cooking around this time. She used to say, "Everyone is happy when their stomach is full." Isn't that the truth? So it was late 50s and going into the 60s. Japan was going through major changes economically and socially. My mom's generation was maybe the first generation of young people in the rural area who were forced to go to work into the city to earn a living and then send their money back to the farm, to the inaka. This was the start of the decline in the farming communities in Japan. A couple years after she graduated middle school, she was offered an apprenticeship with a beautician/barber who was a half-sister from her biological father in the city of Kaseda. She left home at 16 with a dream of becoming a modern woman with a career as a hairstylist one day. See, I did not know that until much, much later. Unfortunately, her dream was dashed since her half-sister and her family only treated her as a live-in nanny, and Hardy trained her for almost over 3 years. She was miserable and didn't know what to do. When she moved to Kaseda, she met Takako, who became her new best friend. Takako was the daughter of the neighboring business owner where she worked with her mother and her 3 sisters, Chioko, Mitsuru, and Choko. Chioko, Mitsuru, and Choko. One day, Takako, seeing how miserable her friend Kimi was, she and her sisters concocted a plan to rescue her from her dire situation. That's so my aunt, but that's just a sneak peek. In the middle of the night, when everyone went to sleep, the sisters gathered Kimi and her stuff and helped her run away. They didn't have to go too far. The sisters moved my mom into their home and gave her a job. Eventually, they truly became her sisters because my dad is their older brother. But he had a little boy from the previous marriage, and he really needed a mother for his son. But they fell in love. Thank goodness, because that's how I came along. They soon married, and they were an instant family. Like I said, I was shortly after I was born. Our family moved to city of Tagami. This was 1966. City of Tagami, when my dad got a corporate job. My mom was very happy being a wife to a man she adored and mother to a growing family. I remember my mom happily cooking and serving my dad and his friends as they had lively conversations around the little table, what we call kotatsu. I'm sure some of you know what that is, and enjoying her delicious cooking. People came from all over to come sit with my dad and then eat her food. She was very content with being in the background and supporting my dad. My sister Ryoko and Yoshihiko were born there. Now there were 4 of us. With the need of a growing family and with a request from her best friend Takako, my mother went to work outside of the home to help out Takako's new business she started with her husband and my grandmother Haru, a beautiful inn and a restaurant in Iso. By the coast, directly across Sakurajima. I don't know if anybody's familiar. Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful resort town. And we moved into a house close by so my mom can walk to work. It was an amazing place for a child to grow up. So sometimes during mid-60s, my aunt Mitsuru and her husband moved to America to start a restaurant business. It was so successful that they asked my uncle, Mamoru's back there, the youngest brother, to come work for them. He eventually opened his own successful restaurant that he operates to this day. Their business was booming and expanding. I remember as a child when my aunt Mitsuru used to visit us in Japan, she would beg my dad to come to America too. She eventually convinced my dad, and he left for America in 1974 to set the stage for our family to immigrate in 1976. My poor, poor mom never ever dreamt that she would be living in America and leaving all her beloved family behind. But she was so loyal to my dad and to our family, so off we went. My dad worked in the States for 2 years to qualify our family to immigrate to America. Yes, we came legally. We moved to East LA, and my dad was working for Aunt Mitsuru and my uncle. My mom worked for Uncle Mamoru at his restaurant on First Street in Little Tokyo. Please visit their restaurant. Very good food. In 1981, my mom and dad, with the help of his brother Mamoru, opened his own restaurant in Whittier, showcasing my mom's cooking and my dad's self-taught skills as a sushi chef. So I want to remind you, he was a corporate executive before he came to America, so he did teach himself, and of course with the help of my uncle as well. They made available authentic Japanese food outside of Little Tokyo. Our family moved to Whittier in 1982. And few of you here, a lot of you here, are here because of our restaurant, right? And we welcomed our little sister Haruka in 1983. She was a big surprise. Yes, she was. And now there were 5 of us. First American. The restaurant and my dad was her entire life. They worked 7 days a week for many, many, many years, never taking a vacation. When we were growing up, being older to spend any time with our parents, we all went to work at the restaurant. I was 14 when I started waiting on tables. I'm not complaining because I treasure those times, because I really learned a lot and got to know my parents and who they were or who they are. Hardworking, so loving, wise, sincere, joyful, and also giving. You know, they kept the restaurant open during the holidays. They didn't want to, because they didn't want anyone to be alone and hungry, especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And my dad used to say, well, we're Buddhists anyway, during Christmas. During the years my parents had the restaurant was a very prosperous time for our family. Maybe not so much in the financial department, but as of offsprings. So let me introduce you to the grandchildren and all the children attached to our offsprings. That's the right word. Okay, so with Katsuhiko and Miyuki, Saori was born. With myself and Louie back there, Alexandra, Shizuka, Jacqueline, Midori, Anthony, Shintaro, Michael, Minoru, Jonathan, Tsuyoshi. And with Yoshihiko and Cherish, Phoebe, Akari, Bailey, Sakura, Logan, Kojiro, and with Haruka and Erik, Koru, Taro. And I think most of our grandkids are represented here, yay, except for Alex. She's in Florida today. So, and the great-grandchildren, and the parents are Saori and Norville, is Mia, and Jonathan and Kendra is Akari, is sitting there behaving very good, very good. And we have other families too, and of course our nieces, our grandnieces and cousins. We have Rumi Yamaguchi, Mitsuru's daughter, and Jasmine Kaori and Christy Mika are Mamoru and Dora's daughters. So yes, we are prosperous in children. My mom used to say that she may not be so rich in gold, but in children. The most important thing, because they are literally the future of our world. And we did good. We did good. Okay. So they closed the restaurant after 32 years in business. And a few years after our restaurant closed, my father passed away with colon cancer in 2017. So for 8 years, Kimi lived without my father, her beloved. She made the best of her life during this time, along with my siblings, Ryoko and Yoshihiko. We made sure that our mom had no need for any. No more worries. No more working so hard. She could relax. So in 2022, Kimi was diagnosed with non-alcoholic liver cirrhosis. Maybe that's too much information. But she was literally given 3 months to a year to live at that time. We were at a doctor's appointment, my mom and I, and when she got the diagnosis, and the doctor said, okay, I need you to translate to her. I said, what? What? How? So, well, in my own way, I translated to her what was going on. And I said, you know what? But this is not the way it's going to be. No, you bless your liver. You bless your body. I know better than that, you know? And so I was making her laugh so much in the doctor's office, and the doctor had stepped out for a few minutes. And so I said, Mama, you say, Jinzo-chan, arigato. Liver, my poor little liver, thank you, and bless it, and love it. And she was laughing so hard. And by the time the doctor came back, he didn't know what was going on. He thought we were going to be in tears and all of that, but we were laughing. I said, well, we'll show you. So she did live on to 3 more years. And you know, that has to do with my sister Ryoko's effort in advocating for her health care and taking care of her daily needs. My brother and I helped out as much as we can, but we give Ryoko all the credit. Absolutely. And you notice that she never had children, right? You didn't hear her name. She actually treated my mom, our mom, like she was her child. So how funny the role reversal happens, right? So as I was preparing for this service, I was thinking, okay, what can I say about my mom? You know, what are the words to describe her? And you know, it's funny because I've spoken to a few people earlier, and I think they felt the same way, that she was very simple and she had very few words to say, you know? So simple, humble, kind. She was very, very kind. So those are the words to describe my mother, and of course those are not the only ones. You know, she always kept a happy, congenial attitude no matter what was going on. Believe me, her life was not, you know, all flowers and happiness, right? And she had a smile for everyone she met. Just ask the nurses that took care of her in the last few months. They all wanted to, well, we had to go to procedures, take her into the hospital. And it was like once a month or once 3 months. And my brother and I took turns, and all the nurses got to know her. And they said, oh, here's Kimi. Hi, Mama. I love you, smile. I just love you, smile. And so they'll all take turns, you know, like coming in to say hello. And of course, my ex-husband, Louie, works there too, so he saw her as well. So she was always smiling. And, you know, without words, her love and kindness just radiated out of her. And she never, ever complained. And you know, one of the things that I really, really admire about my mom is that I don't think she ever had an enemy. She never had a mean word to say to anyone or about anyone. And she didn't have a single mean bone in her body. I just hope that I could emulate that. And you know, she never learned to drive, and maybe that was something that had something to do with it, right? If she didn't have to drive and be in traffic, then she doesn't have any mean words to say. So that's my dad talking. And my dad used to say the reason why us kids are still alive is because mom never learned to drive. And it just might be true. So I hated to see my mother unhappy. It was like kryptonite to me. And my sister knows all about that. There were only a few times, but I knew when she was not herself, something was really wrong. And I remember distinctly when I was about 15, I became her confidant, and in a way, her protector. A role reversal of a sort. And later, when I started to drive, I became her chauffeur as well. So she confided in me her deepest thoughts and concerns. I'm so grateful for that. And this is how I know some of her family secrets. Because we all believe that our grandmother was 25 years old when she had my mother. But I put the two and two together later and figured out that my poor grandmother, Sue, was only 15. So, and another memory I want to share, because I'm going to take care of my sharing at this time, and I'll let everybody else share later. So I remember I was about to turn 17. I found my mom distraught and crying. She confided in me that she was 5 months pregnant, and she didn't know what to do. In America, without her mother, I truly understand. Her doctor said that she was too old at 42. Can you imagine? It could be dangerous to her health, and she had the option to terminate the pregnancy. She was scared and she didn't know, she said she couldn't do this without my mother. And I said, what? You're pregnant? Mother? You know, it's like, first of all, you know, I was 17. I knew how this stuff worked. But when I composed myself, I said, you know what, Mom? Don't worry. I will help you. And my little sister Haruka was born December 1983. And she was my first child. Louie and I, we were already dating. We used to take her around, you know, like to the mall, to the beach, everywhere. And people used to say, look at her and say, oh, she looks just like her dad. I said, you guys think I'm a teenage pregnant, teenage mother? Ah, no. But anyway, so Haruka Yomi. No, I'm just joking. So let's see, when I was about 3, I remember going with my mom, one of her happiest memories. I've never seen her so radiatingly happy. I went with her to a concert, of all things, and I can't even remember ever her mentioning any songs that she liked, except for this one. And we went with her best friend Sachiko, Sachan, and the singer's name is Q-chan, or I think his name is Q Sakamoto, and you will recognize his song. And it was so beautiful to see my mother so happy, and I just wanted to see her happy all the time. And this is a funny story. I want to put it in here. I thought I will cut it out. But are you okay with hearing another sharing?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So another time, much, much later, and I don't even know how we pulled this off. I don't even remember what year it was, but I know we already had our 2 oldest girls. They were with my in-laws for the weekend, and Mendez back there. And Louie and I decided that we're going to kidnap my mother. There's a theme going on here. And take her with us on a trip to Las Vegas overnight. I don't know if you remember, Louie. She hadn't taken a vacation in so many years, I mean literally decades. And she had such a great time. She was like a little girl. And she wanted to see everything, and she wanted to eat everything, and to do everything. And you know, when it came time to go to bed, go back to our hotel room to go to bed, she just didn't want to go to sleep. I said, no, a little longer. We were so glad to give her that experience, and I treasure that memory. And too many memories to share. A few days ago, I was working on putting together this service. I wanted Tommy to dedicate a song for her. But what song? The only song I knew she loved was Kyuchan's song, and we will be playing that later. But he would have to sing it in Japanese, the Kyuchan song, so he can't do that. I could do it, but I'm not going to do it. So I couldn't think of any other song. So I don't know if you'll know, my husband Tommy is a singer and a piano player. So I meditated and asked my mom what she wanted to hear. As I closed my eyes, her face appeared so vividly and smiling at me with her gentle, kind smile. Without saying a word, she sent me a message. And I knew exactly what song. So here it is. Take it away, Tommy.
Hello. I'm going to reiterate a few things Tomoko said. Kimi had some health issues the last few years, and it required a monthly outpatient treatment. So Ryoko, Yoshi, and Tomoko would alternate taking her every month, but every few months, when it was Tomoko's turn, I would go. It was usually on a Tuesday because that's when she's off. I would go along with Tomoko because we needed to help. I needed to help her get Kimi in and out of her Jeep Compass. Kimi had not much strength in her legs and limited strength in her arms, so it was a challenge because the car has high seats. She had to be lifted in, positioned. It was awkward. We had a system. I don't want to get into that. And she was fairly heavy to lift inside, but we got her in. And afterwards, I would fasten her seatbelt. And then, without fail, every single time that I was involved in this, she would, after I clasped her seatbelt, she would just start cracking up, laughing like it was the funniest thing. And I remember thinking, how can she find humor in this? Through the struggle, the pain, and knowing the seriousness of her condition, and also knowing that the treatments were basically only to make her feel more comfortable, which was good, but it wasn't any source of a cure. It was no sort of a cure. She knew all this and still always managed to muster that smile and laugh in the middle of it. I can't even do anything when I have a headache. I can't be happy or anything like that, so I was really impressed. A few days after she passed, Tomoko told me that she felt an intuition from her mother that she would like this song sung at her memorial. It made perfect sense to me because in the 18 plus years that I've known her, I've always known Kimi to always have a smile. is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and know that tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use in crying? You'll see that life is still worthwhile when you just smile. That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use in crying? You'll know that life is all worthwhile when you just smile. Just smile. For Kimi. I was a little late with the slide.
She's here, she's coming. This is how my mother was. She was always trying to make us laugh, just like my dad. Oh my gosh, they were just perfect pair. My goodness. So, thank you so much, Tommy. So I know that that message was for me, for you, because she's all right. So, this is the time to ask anybody who would like to come up and say a few words. Anybody would like to come and say a few words? Maybe a memory?
Yes.
Yes,
You know, towards the end, just towards the end, it's just, I'm just thinking about just taking care of her. It's not much. We didn't go too many places, here and there. We go to restaurants and stuff, but I just wrote down some things. Just remember my first memory being me. I was this big fat baby. I mean, I looked like Michelin tire, like I was that fat. I remember her carrying me, and I was huge. I was like one. And we always go, throughout the city in Japan, and go eat at restaurants and things like that. And I remember thinking, thinking back, what a brat I was. I was like, whenever she has it in her mouth, I'll just grab it and eat it. And I was just like, and then I remember the time we went to a ramen shop in Tagami? Shimizu, okay. And I had to have my own ramen. I'm like, I need my own bowl. And I was like, no, but she just like, okay, I'll buy it for you. I had my own noodles, and I'll take the noodles out of her mouth. I remember doing that. Unbelievable. Like, what happened? Why was I born this way? But I'm not like that anymore. I don't grab people's food. What was my point? But anyways, or can let me have some, right?
Let me have some.
I don't really do that except for this guy Sergio. At work, he makes food, and I'm like, oh, what are you eating?
She's still like that.
Not really. No, hey, I better now, you know. And that's one of my earliest memory. And just, you know, I just heard this term, feral child. We're kind of like a feral child, like, running around the woods and like going on the bus when we're like 3 years old and doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, unbelievable, my mom let us do this? I'm like, how could this happen? You know, we're at like 3 years, and I remember getting lost, you know, and like, no one could find me.
And who comes to your rescue?
Yeah, you probably left me there, okay? This little brat. She's like, I was gonna leave her there for a while. But, I mean, you know, she was always busy working, so, you know, and I guess in Japan it's more commonplace, where at that time at least, you know, to leave your kids and do, you know, letting them do whatever. But, yeah. Anyways, I just remember, those like just images that I remember, because I was pretty young, and I remember like another time when my mom, you know, we're at the second house by the beach. It looked just like Laguna.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah, and she'd be getting ready, you know, for work and stuff, and I'd be like watching, looking at her, and I'm like, God, what a fashionable, beautiful lady this is. I'm like, am I ever gonna be able to be that way? She'd be like putting her eyeshadow, putting lipstick, and I'm looking at her clothes. I'm like, wow, like what? How did she get this, you know, sense of such style? And I guess in the 60s, maybe, was the 70s, late 70s, maybe more like, because I was born 69, so. But I'd be watching her and just, you know, like amazed, you know, admiring her and everything, yeah. That's another moment that I remember, just images and little bits and pieces. And I remember like another time where we're actually at the first house, and I'd be philosophizing with her, sitting on the kotatsu, talking to her. She's having a cigarette, and you know, like talking about everything. Yeah. And like she would like feed me coffee and toast, you know, like, oh, is that okay for kids? And smoking a cigarette, but you know, I was having the greatest time, you know, just hanging out, just talking to my mom, and I was like, maybe 2 or 3. But you know, back then, I mean, she was kind of like, she was a dainty and pretty too, and kind of quiet, but she was kind of rough too at the same time. Have a cigarette and like, she'd be like, and she like do gruesome. Hey, she laughed. Okay, this is the thing she had said. She would laugh, okay, at me getting hurt or something. Tragic happened to me every time. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I'm helping you, but you're sitting here like laughing your head off by, you know, me, like I'll slip or trip or something, fall, and then she'd be like laughing her head off, like, okay. But I think she was just more uncomfortable because she wasn't able to do anything for me, you know, to help me. But anyhow, what was I getting to here? I just wanted to mention her, some of her character. Like, she was like a tough lady, you know. It's like she would like look at gruesome things all the time. Like another one time when my last cat passed away, we couldn't find her, you know, Yuji, our cat, and we're all looking all over for our cat, and he was like a 13-year-old cat. She loved him, you know. It was Haruka's cat actually, originally, but then one day he didn't come back for 3 days, and then my brother found him. And she just goes straight to with a plastic bag. She goes in the bushes and she grabs the remains of the cat. I'm like, how do you do this? I don't want to look at it. Please, just wrap it up. And so she just wrapped it up and she just dug a grave and we put it inside the house. And she's like, this lady's just like out finding like insect or huge spiders. She's like, bam! She has no like, she just went for it, you know? Another time when I was a kid in Japan, she used to work for my aunt Takako, right? And they used to have a pool in the restaurant, like where they will fish for tunas and stuff like that. They'll keep the tuna in the pool. And then she would be like, you know, the person to go and get that tuna and to cut it up and all that stuff. And she's like, come here. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And she's like, look. And then she chops the head off. She just like fillets and she grabs the heart. She's like, look, it's still beating. I'm like, I call it the galima. Remember galima today? Incident is like, poof. What is this lady doing? Anyway, she's just like she was a funny character, I think, you know. And yeah, she was a strong lady, you know. I think I got the eagle claw, you know, strength of the bear from her, you know. She would have she's like, oh my God, she's a strong, her hands were especially really strong. Even to the end, you know, like. But I just want to mention some of her talents, you know, she very great cook. And even one point at the restaurant, like somebody, who was it, that came over to see if they could sponsor her, take your teriyaki sauce and like promote it. Was it for Norm's restaurant or something? But I don't know what happened, but my dad said, no, we're not going to give the recipe away. Or something like that happened. And she could have been famous, we could have been billionaires. But she was a great cook. She was great at knitting. She made like all kinds of, and that's where she probably got it, or my sister got it from knitting. Also green thumb, like everything she took, like she would like multiply, like she was just, she was amazing. I mean, I could keep things alive, but I'm not very good at like putting it together and stuff like that. But also like origami, she was great at that. What else was she? I also saw her as a simple, like my sister said, a nature child. She loved nature, going on walks. I remember her telling me that she would climb up on like persimmon trees and like and she'll get a whole bunch and she would get in trouble by her neighbors.
As a child.
As a child,
Yes.
yeah. Not as a grandma, okay? I told you, I'm kind of all over the place, you know. But I just couldn't put it together. I just, my mind. Anyways, and another thing, her likes, of course, she loves, like I said, persimmons, sweets, and whenever I told her, there's cake, it's a birthday, and she'd be not feeling good, you know, and she'd be like, what? She comes out, you know, she's like, and then she goes, keep having to sing the song, and she goes into her room, and towards the end, she'd be like, boom, like, she'll like, there's cake, and she was just like, get up, right away, like, even if she's not feeling good. She was just a funny character. But anyways, towards the end, you know, she was able to walk very well because once she fell and she had injuries on her lower body, we would have to help her, so that would, of course, make her weak. And so we would have to help her pretty much every day, you know, to go to the restroom like 3 times at least, you know, a day. And, you know, I mean, I thought she was okay, you know. I mean, you know, I was going to take her to the end, you know, I was just going to, whenever she wants to go, I was just going to take care of her. But I guess she wasn't very happy, and it was her time. You know, she can't do all the things that she wanted to do. But a couple months before, there's something was different about her, like even more quiet, more, you know, not very talking, like not too much. But I said to myself, you know what? Japanese people are not really used to saying, like, I love you, or giving hugs and things like that. So I decided, I was very uncomfortable at first, but I just gotta say, I love you every single day, every time I see her. And that's one thing I don't regret, because I regret a lot of things. I want to take her for walks. I want to do all kinds of things for her while she was still here with me and her family. But that, I just tell you, everybody, like, just make sure you tell your loved ones you love them, even if you feel uncomfortable at first. But I told her every single day that I loved her, and the day that she passed, I told her, you know, I love you. And she said, there's just different things she said, but she said, I love you, or I love you too. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, she said it before, but she was more clear, and she was speaking to me before the day that she passed. And I know she knew that I loved her, and we loved her, you know, so just make sure, it's just a message to everybody. You know, somehow show them that you care and love them, and be there with them, you know. Just be there with each person, you know, in the now. And I guess that's really much, that's all I have. I'm kind of scattered, but I couldn't really, yeah, anyway.
So I knew you could do it.
Well, you know, my brain
big sister that you could do it. Thank you for that. You know, we grew up in the same house. But she was always the comic relief, so I'm grateful. So, anyone else like to share?
Any memories? I could do a couple.
Eric? Come on,
Okay.
Eric. Hey. What's your name?
I'm Erik. I'm Haruka's partner. We've been together about, it's going to be 24 years this year. It's going to be our anniversary. And we have a kid here, Koru. But I knew Kimi first when I met Haruka. She was 18. We were both 18. And Phoebe was 3 years old. And Bailey was almost 1. And so I knew Kimi as Bachan in relation to them. And that's how I always called her. I always called her Bachan when I saw her. And so she was often the nanny for Phoebe and Bailey when they were little. And for her, it was like, you know, why do I have to do this again? Because I already did this for the other kids, for all the other kids. So she was always just exasperated with them. And they were very naughty as little kids. So Bachan would be walking around the house, Phoebe would be messing around, breaking stuff, and she'd go, Phoebe, Daddy gonna mad. Bailey would be screaming and crying her head off, and she's like, oh, Bailey, oh my God. Just exasperated because she knew they could only speak English, so she could just tell them. That's all she could say, really, to express how frustrating it was to have these little babies terrorizing the house. And that was the same house that they all grew up in, too, that Bachan took care of them. And anytime I would visit the house and would stay there for a while, and you know, I'd have to use, anytime we get there, especially after a long drive, I'd have to use the restroom. And I have a very weak bladder. But somehow Bachan could always knew when someone was about to use the restroom. Because as soon as you start heading for the restroom, Bachan comes down the hallway at like light speed, cuts you off. You could never beat her to it. So I would always be out there, you know, holding it, and because Bachan is always going to get it first. And it's just like Yoko said, how tough she was and how tenacious, you know, that spirit that she had. She was always fun. She was always funny. When her and Yoshi were together, it was like a sitcom couple. Because he was this mischievous old man, you know, and he'd be just like, grabbing her, she'd just smack him. You know. So she was real fun. So I always remember her being the Bachan, you know, with the little crazy naughty kids that she would take care of, and just also the lady who would never let me use the restroom first. She'd always win. She'd always, you can never beat Bachan.
Remember the time when I became a mother and I kept having kids. We kept having kids. We ended up with 5. And of course my mom was a big help. But like I mentioned before, she's like a little kid. And you know, she's kind of bratty, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention.
And we would do our little trips, you know, to Little Tokyo to go visit Uncle Mamoru at his restaurant and do shopping, you know, because Japanese food, you have to go downtown to get the food, you know, during that time. So I would take her with me, and it was every Saturday for many, many, many years. Because they worked 7 days a week, but they only worked at night on Saturdays and Sundays. So Saturday morning was her time off. So we had so much fun. And I'm so glad to have that time because I stayed home with the kids. So I had time to be with my mom and understand what it was like in a way. Like how she grew up. And how she really wanted her mother with her, you know, when Haruka was born. And I just so appreciated her so much. She became a friend after a while. And of course, like I said, she was really bratty, and and she had a one-track mind. You know, and we would be like pushing strollers, you know, downtown and going to Yaoham Market, and then I turn around and she's gone. And she's lost. And I'm going, oh my God, Mom, you're supposed to be helping me, you know? And we'll be looking, Bacham, where are you? Bacham, where are you? And it turned out that I wasn't the only one that she was doing this to. She was doing this to my sister, my brother. I'm like, you know, I think it was a revenge because we used to get lost all the time when we were little kids, you know, and oh, broke her heart all the time. Anyway, so many memories. I mean, how do you put a lifetime of a person, of a wonderful lady, into a couple hours, right? But I know that she always will be living in our hearts, every single one of us. So if nobody else wants to come on, you know, share your memories with us at reception. And one thing I did forget to do was to light the candle. This light represents spirit, God. So we have one more thing. I should look at the program. We do have a video tribute, the photo tribute.
Dreams that you Someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me.
The pictures were compiled by my niece Phoebe and my brother Yoshihiko. Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. Last word. Anybody? Last chance. Okay. So I'm going to close this service with a committal and a benediction. So take a moment. Take a deep breath. So spirit, which is the very breath of God, is not limited to this fragile experience, but finds expression far beyond that which we call physical world or physical life. We release what was and make room for what shall be, as we testify within our minds that life does not end, but merely transmutes. That today we say goodbye, and yet we also say hello. We say goodbye to the physical focus of our relationship with Kimi, and greet the relationship with her soul that now begins anew. Through the grace of God, she lives forever in God's mind and in ours. So the reality of Kimi is her consciousness. Whatever of the infinite beauty and joy and goodness of God she made her own was through the process of living it. Today we are blessing our loved one in the further unfoldment of that life on a higher plane. From this perspective, this is a joyful one, for we are celebrating the ongoingness of life. So let us now close our eyes and see with the inner eyes of spirit, beyond the limited horizon of physical sight. Now as we recognize the truth about our beloved Kimi and ourselves, we can see that she is indeed herself. That she is filled with love and joy and life in a new experience. And because we are one in spirit and in truth, she is somehow aware that we are accepting the truth about her now. Beloved presence of God, how grateful we acknowledge the gifts we have both given to and received from our beloved Kimi. Thankful for the healing of our hearts and awakening of our souls to the truth, which sets us all free. We release our beloved now to the highest possible expression of new life in spirit. We celebrate the ongoingness of life and the continuity of love within us all. Moving serenely into our lives and knowing we are never alone. Sustained in divine love and guided by infinite wisdom, we truly know that all is well. So, in high gratitude, with heart full of this thankfulness, we just say, thank you, God, and let it be. And so it is. Thank you all for being here. There are lots of food, so please stay and have some snacks. And all the pictures that you saw on the slide are on the poster board as well, so take your time looking. And ask Ryoko, what's that about? And there it is. There's a picture of her, just so funny. This is the way I'm always going to remember my sister and my mother. They're arguing, and then my mom does have a cigarette in her hand. So look for that picture. So thank you, thank you, thank you.